What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Finding Nemo. So Finding Nemo is a movie I've been wanting to talk about here on the channel for quite some time. It's not only one of my favorite Disney Pixar animated films, but easily one of my favorite animated films of all time. And this last time I actually rewatched it, which was probably the 10 millionth time that I've seen it, I actually watched it in Spanish, showing my grandma this movie for the very first time, which was an interesting experience. So I'm going into this with a lot of rewatches of this movie. I've played the video games, the various video games for this movie. I've ridden the rides at Disney World. I've seen the musical show that they have at Disney World, and now I've seen it in Spanish. So yeah, Finding Nemo, one of my favorite animated films, like I just mentioned, and I had to do this with somebody else, so I got Rashad from Rashad G Reviews here in this video. We're going to be hearing from him in just a little bit, but you guys can find the link to his channel down below in the description box. But for now, let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on Finding Nemo. So this movie is directed by Andrew Stanton and Lee Unkrich, and yeah, between the two of them, they've had so many movies that they're credited to as far as Pixar films. Everything from Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3 to Monsters, Inc. to WALL-E to Finding Dory. I think they've proven themselves as pretty competent creators when it comes to the Pixar, realm. And what I can say overall about this movie is that I find it to be an incredibly well-directed, well-voice-acted, well-animated film that still holds up. You know, when you go back and watch some of those earlier 2000s or just, even late 90s animated films that were first starting to dip their toes into 3D animation, and, sometimes they don't 100% hold up. Thankfully, with Finding Nemo, even though you can see the difference when you watch something like Finding Dory, which is the sequel that came much later, the movie still holds up when it comes to animation. It's beautifully animated. It's really fun to watch visually. It's colorful, it's vibrant, it's got tons of stuff going on. It's just so, on a visual level alone, it's aesthetically pleasing, and I thoroughly enjoy that element about the film. But beyond that, it tells a real story, a story that takes a lot of really great elements from real life, a story of a father trying to find his son, a story of letting go, a story of letting go of your fears, really beyond just letting go of your child. And also on the child side of things, a story about, kind of getting what you wanted, right? You want that adventure in your life, but now you kind of have to toughen up when you don't have your parents around, and you kind of have to start to make your own way. And I thoroughly enjoy the way that this film handles that. It handles a lot of really different things as far as the relationship between a child and their parent really, really well, as well as, again, just really leaning into the idea of letting go and also just overcoming fear, where sometimes our mind just works against us and you don't push yourself to be your best self because of fear. There are things that you feel will be these huge obstacles in your life, but a lot of times it's just about really going out there and trying. And even if it is a challenge, even if it is scary, even if it is dangerous, because you come out a lot stronger on the other side. So I really thoroughly enjoy that about this film right out of the gate. And for anybody who's never seen this movie, I will be touching on spoilers, but if you haven't seen this movie, come on, it's been out for quite some time, but hopefully you'll stick around. If you haven't seen this movie, you can kind of just enjoy hearing us talk about it, because I think that this is one of those movies that hopefully you'll hear us talk about it and then you'll be like, hey, maybe I should check that movie out for myself. So Finding Nemo, like I mentioned, one of my favorite animated movies of all time. At the beginning of this movie, we're introduced to Marlin, who will go on to be our main character for the movie, pretty much. Nemo and him pretty much share the spotlight, but I'd say that Marlin is the main character. And then we're also introduced to Coral, but only for a brief time. Similar to a lot of Disney Pixar films, this movie opens up with a very bright opening, but eventually ends up setting up the path of the movie with a lot of tragedy. We're introduced to Marlin and Coral, his wife, who are expecting dozens of little babies that will be coming very, very soon, as they look over just this patch of eggs that they have, a bunch of baby eggs that are going to be coming. But I should also mention that they're clownfish. And so, yeah, they're very excited for what's to come. They're talking about what they're going to name the kids and all this stuff. Suddenly, out of nowhere, all the fish in the area disappear. They have no idea why. And off in the distance, you see a barracuda is looking at their babies. It's looking at their eggs. Coral decides to do what a lot of mothers would do and tries to save her babies. When Marlin tries to follow suit, he ends up getting swatted to the side by the barracuda's tail. And when he wakes up, coral is gone, as well as all of the eggs except for one that has a scratch in it, which would end up being Nemo. Cut to the future, and Nemo is now a kid, and we learn that he has a bum fin. The scratch that we saw on that egg was something that I guess happened during the Barracuda attack, which ended up giving him a handicap when he was actually born, where now one of his fins is smaller than the other one. And so right out of the gate, Nemo is set up with a bit of a handicap, which only amplifies Marlin's fears. That's where we start to learn that Marlin is a bit of a rigid parent. You know, what's happened has really set him on the path of absolute and utter fear for not only himself and the things around him, but for his son. You know, he's completely fearful of what his son will do in life and doesn't want Nemo to go out and adventure and do things simply because of his fear for what the world has to offer. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, even though this takes place in the ocean and it takes place with sharks and all these other things. Anybody who knows me knows that I am absolutely petrified of the ocean, predominantly because of things like sharks. I have an irrational fear of sharks. It's really hard to watch shark movies sometimes, even though there's plenty that I really genuinely love on a horror level. But yeah, what I can say on an overall level is that this movie does a good job of taking, you know, a really fun, whimsical idea of throwing this story into the ocean, but really humanizes it so that the audience is able to really relate to the narrative that's happening here. Not long into the movie, Nemo is taken by a group of divers and is now taken to Sydney, Australia, which ends up setting off Marlin to have to go on this long trek across the ocean to literally go through everything that he would possibly ever be afraid of to save his son. This is a movie about what a parent is willing to do for their child. It's a movie about letting go of your child and recognizing that through this whole journey, both Nemo and Marlin, they grew. You know, they overcame fears, they overcame different anxieties that they had, and they both recognized what they were doing for one another. You know, Nemo is able to recognize now that he's alone and he's scared that all this adventure he wanted, maybe he didn't want it as much. Maybe he realizes now why his dad is so caring and so loving and so protective. But then on the opposite side, you have Marlin being able to recognize that his son's been alone this entire time and he's made it happen. You know, he's connected with other fish and he's done what he has to do to survive. And the two of them have grown separately in this way that now when they've come together, there is this pure appreciation and love for one another in a new way. And I think that this movie handles it so well, touching on so many really great emotional moments that still make me teary-eyed every single time I watch this movie, even when I watched it in Spanish, which I would say was definitely a lesser version of this movie. But yeah, on an overall level, I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie on just the emotional themes that this movie really tackles. And then you have characters like Dory in the mix, who definitely has an emotional storyline throughout the film because, you know, she has the short-term memory loss, but she's usually there for the funny moments. And I gotta praise the voice cast of this movie for really making it all work. You have Albert Brooks, who plays Marlin. I think he does a great job of playing this father, again, who has all these anxieties and all these fears, and I think he handles all of that really well, really selling us as the audience on his character. He can be a bit rigid, like I said. Sometimes you just want to slap him because he's too rigid, but you really understand where he's coming from. Then you also have Ellen DeGeneres as Dory, really bringing us the comic relief and making the fun very light and fun to watch, and I really enjoy the journey that both her and Marlin go on throughout the course of the film. And then you have a character that is in the film that I really thoroughly enjoy, who is Willem Dafoe's character, and I really enjoy the kind of mentor character that he kind of plays for Nemo in the film. And overall, just the rest of the voice cast, everybody, there's just so many names to list off. I highly recommend checking out this movie if you guys haven't. Visually, voice cast wise, just overall, this movie is just so great. It has so many great elements, so many great themes that you can take away from it. And I've rambled on way longer than I needed to here before I have my guests pop in. So let's go ahead and take a quick moment from what I'm saying and hear what Rashad G has to say about this.
Perez, what's the deal? Pickles, is everything kosher? So our tit for tat saga continues. This time you got me watching Finding Nemo, and I just took a sigh of relief. Because with you sometimes, boy, I don't be knowing. Yeah, y'all, from the jump, right away, I'm not even wasting no time. Finding Nemo gets an A+ in my book, y'all. One of my favorite Disney Pixar movies, probably is my favorite. I flip-flop between that, The Incredibles, and Toy Story 3 is my favorite Disney Pixar movies. But I love Finding Nemo. It's been a while since I watched it, so I couldn't wait. I played it on my projector on the wall. Me and my daughter watched it together. My 5-year-old son was going to watch it too, but he was in a drunken slumber, so he couldn't join us. This is Adventure 101. This is what an adventure is supposed to be, man. You know, so, okay, I'm pretty sure you went into the whole plot and everything. So Marlin the killjoy fish. He's supposed to be a clownfish, but he's just as dull as can be. He's overprotective of his son Nemo because he lost all his eggs and shit. All his babies died. Nemo was the last one. He has a bum fin. Too overprotective of him. Doesn't want to let his son go. Loses his son. And the rest of the movie is the adventure of Marlin running into all kind of interesting characters, interesting obstacles to try to get his son back. Did I say interesting obstacles? I mean, I'm talking too fast. Dangerous obstacles to get his son back. And even as many times as I've watched Finding Nemo, I still find myself being on edge in the situations that Marlin and what's the Ellen DeGeneres character named Dory, the situations they find themselves in, I'm still like, oh, how are they gonna get out of this? So well directed, so well written, and I don't even know who the director and the writer of this movie are, but they did a great job. I have no flaws with this movie. I absolutely have no problems with this movie. Probably my favorite scene was the scene with Bruce, the shark, who has the same name as Jaws, as many of you may know. But I love that scene where they have the little, the shark, Fish Anonymous, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And he's like, yes, fish are friends, not food. And then Dory's nose gets busted and the blood comes up and he's like, oh, that's good. Intervention! I just want a bite. I love that scene. I laugh every time I watch it. Yeah, y'all, I laughed in this movie. I damn near cried in this movie. I'm assuming you're getting into spoilers, but at the end, when he gets Nemo back, and the scene where all the fish had to swim down to break the net, and Nemo appeared to be almost dead, and Marlin has that flashback when he was a little egg, and then the little fin where they gave each other dap, and I mean, especially being a parent, that shit gets me, man. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I have kids of my own, so I watch this now through the eyes of a parent, and it hits me right here as most Disney Pixar movies do. So yeah, y'all, I don't want to take a whole lot of time. I know Perez got a lot more to say about this, but I absolutely love this movie. I have zero problems with it. But as I'm watching Marlin, though, Marlin was getting on my fucking nerves. He is such a dream killer, and I can relate to that too because my parent, well, actually more my father than my mom. My father is really a dream killer, y'all. He just, everything that you say you want to do, he'll shit on it. So really quick. I said I wanted to go to school for film. Son, don't go to school for that. It's too competitive. You can't be a filmmaker. Now go for something you can get a job in, you know. And then I ended up going to school to be a massage therapist. Massage therapist, ain't that when you're rubbing on dudes and shit? You sure you want to do that? No matter what I did, Pop didn't like it. He's a dream killer, and that was Marlin. And I think the theme of this movie is definitely letting go. You know what I'm saying? Letting go. If you have kids, let your kids, let them grow, like let them leave the nest, let them experience things. You can't, if you overprotect them and just hover over them, they're never going to experience anything. That's one of the realest shit that Dory said in this movie was that, listen, if you don't let him do anything, how's he going to do anything? Or something like that, she said. So yeah, y'all, I love Finding Nemo. This is perfect, man. I love this fucking movie. Perez, thank you for recommending this to me. Yeah, man, I kept this short and sweet 'cause I'm pretty sure that you're gonna go really into this movie. So I just want to give my 2 cents. I love Finding Nemo. It gets an A+ in my book. Perfect damn Disney Pixar movie. So with that being said, floor's back to you, homie. What you got?
A big thanks to Rashad for being here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts, man, and I love hearing that you actually really enjoyed this movie because, yeah, this is one of those movies that I think everybody can really relate to. You know, I don't think you have to be a parent, and I think if you are a parent, you're able to relate to it even more. But I think overall, this movie touches on various things. And now being an adult, you know, having rewatched this movie countless times as I've gotten older, I'm always able to take something slightly different from it. It also has a beautiful score, which really amplifies these incredibly emotional moments. But again, it's light, it's fun, it's funny, it's silly, but it's also got great moments of action and peril and really crazy things that are going on. And it takes these really real life events and brings them into this sea life in a very fun and silly way, but also brings in some really serious themes that I think the movie handles incredibly well, with the most notable, again, being letting go and growing separately, you know, from your parent, you know, allowing you as a parent to grow separately from your child and become a different kind of parent and let go of the anxieties and the fears that your child are going to go through. And also for these characters in and of themselves, you know, being able to watch the journey that Marlin goes through, and he himself becomes less rigid by the end of the film. He feels experienced. He feels like he's lived. He feels like those fears that he had are not nearly as warranted as maybe he thought they were at the beginning of the movie. I think this is a genuinely great film that has tons of different characters that all go through arcs throughout the course of the film. And that's the main thing you could ever ask for in a movie, or at least that I can ever ask for, is being able to watch a movie, see characters go from point A to point B that feels natural, and you genuinely feel like you've been on an adventure with them, and that you completely understand why their characters have gone through that journey, how they ended up where they are at the end of the film. It feels natural. It really flows really well. The movie has great character development, beautiful animation, beautiful music, and just is a great fun time. A movie that adults and kids can watch and thoroughly enjoy. And I hope Rashad and I have definitely sold you on this movie if you've never seen it before. So Finding Nemo, highly recommend it. Currently on Disney Plus. I'm sure you can find the Blu-ray as well if you're somebody who wants to collect the Blu-ray instead. And I'll go ahead and pass it off to you guys now. Leave the comments down below. Did you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? If you don't like this movie, leave my channel. No, I'm just kidding. But if you don't like this movie, I'm very curious why you don't like this movie. And also for anybody who likes these movies in general, do you like Finding Nemo or Finding Dory more? I'm Finding Nemo over Finding Dory, but I did enjoy Finding Dory, and I will do a review for that here at some point very soon. So like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.